Greetings, booktubers, and welcome back to Grammaticus Books, where today on Grammaticus Books, we're talking about the science fiction novel Tunnel in the Sky by Robert A. Heinlein, 1955. It's one of his young adult novels. It's not his best young adult novel, in my opinion. That's Half Spacesuit Will Travel, but this one's pretty good. It's a pretty solid novel here, coming in at 253 pages. It's got its good points, it's got its bad points, and we'll go over both here during this video review. But we're doing this as part of Rocket Summer. Rocket Summer is a reading event created by Michael K. Vaughan over at his fantastic channel, where all during the month of July you read vintage science fiction. In the third week, which is where we are now here today, you read vintage science fiction from the 1950s. And again, this is published in 1955. It is an A science fiction paperback, 253 pages, with a classic cover on here by Steel Savage. And I think this is probably the most popular and most well-known cover to all the printings here of Tunnel in the Sky. So that's the book. What is it about? What happens in this book? What is the story? And I'll give you a general background of it. I'm not going to give you any major spoilers, maybe a couple of minor spoilers, but this is just a general overlay of the plot of the book. And it's in the future, and you have interstellar interdimensional gates, which are being used in order to send out high school students and students from other classes around the Earth to go out on a 2-week survival course. So you step through this portal, it's volunteer as part of a class, this survivalist class that you elect to take, and you step through the portal and you're transported to another unknown world. You don't know where you're going. It could be any type of planet, and you're only allowed to take a minimal amount of gear in order to survive there for approximately 2 weeks. You don't know the length of the class that it's going to be on this planet. You just have an approximate time frame. And then at the appropriate time, a gate will open up, and you return back and you've passed the class. And it is quite possible that you could be killed on the other planet from hostile environmental conditions or from hostile flora and fauna that just kill you. It is it's quite possible and does happen with some regularity, especially according to the events in this book here, that some of these students do die. So why would you volunteer for this class? Well, the reason that these students are volunteering for it is because the Earth has become vastly overpopulated, and these population pressures are causing them to use these gates in order to go out to these untamed worlds and then try to convert them into habitable worlds and establish societies on them. And if you've gone through this survivalist class and if you've passed it, then that gives you a leg up in order to lead one of these expeditions, or at least beyond one of these expeditions, to get off of the overpopulated world of Earth and onto one of these new planets in order to develop it. And it does read a lot of like Stargate SG-1 from that TV series. In some respects, it is quite a bit like Stargate SG-1, but I think it may have influenced the TV show, but it does have some differences as well. So in this book here, our main protagonist, which you've got a picture of him on there, painting by Steel Savage, is Rod Walker. And Rod Walker is a high school student from Patrick Henry High School, and he's gone off on this trip. He's volunteered for the survivalist course, and his professor in this class, Dr. Matson, has sent him through the gate along with a bunch of other students. And they get there, and what they don't know is that shortly after they arrive, a supernova has gone off in the area that disrupts the interdimensional gates. And they wind up being stranded there, not for 2 weeks, but for 2 years. And at this point, the book takes a turn. It turns away from pure science fiction, and it turns into sort of a mashup of Lord of the Flies meets the TV show Survivor. And the main character, Rod Walker, then starts organizing these students as they pick them up and gather them in. And then at this point, they start forming a society because they don't know how long they're going to be stranded here before they're rescued. So they have to start building a village and a town and fighting off of the elements and all of the savage animals that are existing on this world. And they have to start dealing with themselves and all of the personalities in this group and establish a community and invent a government. And of course, it's Robert E. Heinlein, so it's going to, at some point, evolve into a commentary on the development of government and rules for human beings in a society, which is absolutely where this goes, but in a survivalist context with all of these kids from these different classes from around the Earth who are trying to pass the survivalist class. And so they're there for a period of 2 years until they get to the conclusion of the book. And the book would have been more interesting, I think, if Robert A. Heinlein had just kept it on more of a science fiction bent. I certainly could go down that route of trying to develop these societies and relationships and develop some type of a ruling set of governing guidelines in order to organize these people while they wait for rescue. But he takes it the full Monty into establishing committees and elections, and it just goes all the way down that path. And it is somewhat interesting, but I think the book lost a little bit of its focus on the science fiction aspect and does turn into this Lord of the Flies, The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli, and Survivor, the TV series. And I would have liked to have seen it more focused upon the science fiction aspect of the book. Now, it is a typical science fiction book by Robert E. Heinlein, meaning that it does have very strong female characters in it. There are very many strong female characters who assert themselves during the building of this new government and society that they're putting together on this world. In addition to that, there's quite a few clues and hints that the main character, Rod Walker, back in 1955, was actually black. He's a African-American. Actually, yeah, I can say he's African-American. He's from Patrick Henry High School in what would have been the Americas of this world. I don't think the United States of America exists, but he's still out of the Americas. But there's quite a bit of hints that Robert A. Heinlein drops that Rod Walker is in fact black. So I do believe that that's on purpose by Heinlein. I don't think that's me or other people reading into that. I do think that that was a purposeful insert of that little piece of information about him actually being a black main character all the way back in 1955. But he never comes right out and says it, which is very interesting. The other complaint that I have about this book, that's not one of my complaints, by the way. I just want to be clear about that. In fact, I think that's one of the good things that Heinlein does, and he does it so subtly in his other books, and he does it subtly in this one as well. So one of my other complaints about this book is the very ending, right when their trial on this planet is coming to an end. I think Robert A. Heinlein takes his foot off of the gas a little bit of the young adult narrative that's going on here of coming of age, of developing yourself, of becoming a fully functioning adult in society. And they're going ahead full steam with this whole society and government that they're establishing here by themselves without any other adults around them. And then he eases off of that right at the end as his old professor, Dr. Matson, comes into the novel back again. He recovers it a little bit in the very last chapter. There's about 5 pages worth of a chapter right after that section right there at the end of the book, where he does make a little bit of a recovery on that. But I would have liked to have seen him take a stronger coming of age stance and just continue to go down that line instead of having a little bit of what I consider to be a cop-out. The other thing that happens at this point in the book is that his professor, Dr. Matson, when he comes back after they've been gone for 2 years, has married Rod Walker's sister in Rod Walker's absence, and Dr. Matson is 20 years older than Rod Walker's sister. So right when you thought you were going to get through a Robert E. Heinlein novel without any kind of strange sex stuff in it, then he goes and he takes it for a turn by marrying Rod Walker's sister, the professor, the all-knowing, all-wise professor, which seems to be a ubiquitous character in all these Robert E. Heinlein novels, and marries his 20-year younger sister. Now, as far as Robert E. Heinlein goes and weird sex stuff, that is one of the most minor incidents of it. It certainly gets a lot stranger than that, but I did find it funny that he did take that turn here at the end of the book. But Robert E. Heinlein, Tunnel in the Sky, it's pretty good. It's a good adventure story. It's got a lot of action in it. I think it goes a little bit long on the development of society and the government. It would have been a little bit better if it had stayed more focused on more of the science fiction aspect of it. But it's a solid YA novel there in the series by Robert E. Heinlein, and you should check it out if you're interested. And that's it. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up and say take care, be safe, and I'll catch you guys next time.